Hello there. In this video I'm gonna talk about a build that I came up with recently, which is the Arcanist Dagger build. And I'm still in the middle of the playthrough, but I decided to record this first section of the let's say guide video, because I wanted to talk about this while it's still fresh. But before we go in, if I am to show you the entire build and briefly explain the overall concept of the build, which by the way, when I googled it, I found out that it wasn't necessarily an original build, but I still think this is a very fun build to play and also a cool idea, so I want to share this with you. So and by the way, you can see some Korean text in here. I used a Korean app that allows you to properly visually represent all the additional ability points that you get as Mahir. But anyway, so the core concept of the build is to utilize or synergize the high number of attacks that you do as dual wield dagger and the on-hit damage buff that you get from Seal of Power and Ether Shield. So if I were to show you the exact effects, here you can see that Ether Shield grants all strikes and shots additional arcane damage for 4 turns after you teleport. And then Seal of Power also grants you additional arcane damage to strikes and shots. So these, with the Flurry of Strikes, which can do up to 6 attacks in a single turn, and the Dagger tree's basic attack skill Double Lunge can also do 3 attacks a single turn. And with this Quick Hands passive that reduces the cooldown, and also if you level up willpower to reduce the cooldowns further, this skill becomes basically spammable every turn. So you can use Double Lunge, or you can open with Flurry. That depends on the situation, but so every turn you are guaranteed to do at least 3 strikes, which means these on-hit damage buffs are multiplied by 3. So that is the core concept of this build. And the rest are just fun things that I came up with. For example, if you take a look at this armored combat tree, the Battle Forged skill, when you're wearing light chest piece, gives additional dodge and counter chance per tile you move. And I tested this, and dimensional shift counts towards that. So for example, if you dimensional shift 5 tiles with an enemy like 5 tiles away, you get full stack of battle forged light armor effect. So you get 10% dodge and 10% counter chance for 4 turns. And there are more fun little synergies in this build. For example, let's say this Dagger skill, Dagger passive, Dance Macabre. Sorry, I don't know Spanish, but this gives dodge chance per critical strike that you land. And this build has a lot of crit through intimidation. So intimidation, this essentially gives you 5% crit chance per strike that you land on the enemy, and stacks up to 5 times. But as I said, this build does a lot of attacks, so this really synergizes well with the build. And then it also takes Thirst for Battle, which gives crit chance the less HP you have. There's also offensive tactic and little things like Dying Fervor and the Berserker Tradition. So it ends up with a lot of crit chance. Right now the build is nowhere near complete, so I don't have a lot, but which means that passively you gain tons of dodge chance and counter chance from these passive skills. So it also synergizes very well with light armor, I found, or at least in theory. And I actually have a save file of a just regular dual wield dagger playthrough. I think it's this one. Let's take a look real quick. And I used the save editor to compare the damage numbers of a regular dual wield dagger build and the magic hybrid build. And the magic hybrid build turned out to be stronger actually. So this is the build character that I have, that I played, I think it was my second playthrough. And this one has athletics skill tree instead of the armored combat and the arcanistic stuff. But if we see, like for proper damage comparison, let's do it on a Shaw dummy. Like it's what, like 26, and the offhand is 17, so that's what, 43 times 3 is what, 129 or something. It's honestly not that much. I think it's because, like, why hold on, yeah, wait a minute, this is not a proper comparison because, as I said, I save edited this and compared the damage numbers, but I didn't revert back the stats, so this doesn't have the proper stats. But anyways, the point is, like, this had like 150 something base damage number of the flurry of strikes, and then when I added the magic hybrid, seal of power, and ether shield, it had like what, it went up to something like 200, 300, I can't remember the exact number, but it was like so much better. So I'm thinking I built this character a bit wrong, but at the same time the margin of difference is so large that I think there's just the magic hybrid, it has an advantage that's just undeniable. And another advantage that the magic hybrid has is that it's stronger against armor. So this dual wield dagger is relatively weaker against armor because protection is applied to each of the strikes, right? So each protection value reduces the damage number by the same amount for the melee attacks. But for magic and ranged attacks, it only reduces half the amount. So let's say if you have 10 protection and receive 20 damage, you only actually take 10 HP damage. But if that 20 damage is split into 10 physical and 10 magic damage, I can't. So what happens is the protection also gets divided into half, and the physical part gets divided by, subtracted by 5, and then the magic part only gets subtracted by 2.5. I'm not sure if you're following this, but anyways, the point is that its protection is half efficient against magic and ranged damage. So inherently magic damage is stronger against armor, which really supplement the fact that dual wield dagger build is a bit weaker against armor. So that's another point that the magic hybrid has over the regular version. And then another advantage is that you just get the utility from the arcanistics tree of like things like dimensional shift and wormhole, and also the ether shield itself is a really good defensive skill, like for melee characters as well, because it gives a ton, especially this thing scales with willpower, which you're gonna take to 30. So by the end you have like 75% control resistance and move resistance, bleed resistance, and also you have minus 25% damage taken. So it's a really strong defensive skill. It lasts a bit, its duration is a bit short. So this downside is that you are forced to renew Ether Shield and Seal of Power every 3 turns. So you have to either cast Dimensional Shift or preemptively set up Wormhole so that you can teleport every three turns, which is not always a downside because sometimes you might want to reposition anyways, and Dimensional Shift is also like not a bad skill to use mid-combat, especially in the late game when the dungeons are crowded and they are usually frontline and backline, so you want to disrupt the formation with it. It also gives nice penalties to the teleported enemies. Like at full will, it gives minus 15% to enemies' weapon damage, accuracy, and fumble chance. But every 3 turns is a bit more frequent than you'd like, so I'd say it's still a downside, but it's a minor one compared to all the advantages that you can get by mixing in magic. And what else? So yeah, like this theory crafting all started with thinking about how I can maximize the utilization of From the Shadows. Oh yeah, let's talk about this too. So you can see this passive is like, I don't know, I think it gives too much for a tier 1 passive. The plus 33% damage taken itself is like a lot, and then add to that you do plus 25% more weapon damage and armor penetration to a confused enemy. That is a lot of free damage that you get from just 1 point. So I was thinking, how can I confuse enemies reliably? And there's one way actually, which is Warcry. It confuses everyone within 9 tiles and gives a slight weapon damage and crit chance bonus as well. This is also a really strong tier 1 skill, but it does require some willpower to be able to land that confusion reliably. Right? So, but the thing is, like the Dagger tree and the dual wield skill tree doesn't scale with willpower at all. These scale with perception, agility, and strength. So I was thinking, how can I make this work with putting some points into willpower? And then what came up, what I found that is that you can just go magic hybrid. But the thing is, yeah, okay, so that's not a but. So it's just everything just clicks together if you do that. As I said before, the crit chance all works together to give you more dodge, and then the willpower, because you have willpower, gives like so much cooldown on its own. At 30 you get minus 45% cooldown. Your flurry of strikes goes down to 4 turns cooldown. The exact number may vary depending on the loadout and stuff, but it goes down to 4, and this, as I said, you can just spam it every turn. So you don't really need more active attack skills for this, and everything else can be devoted into something defensive or utility. So now that the overall concept of the build is explained, I want to talk about the early game experience I've had so far playing this build, testing this build. And in the early game, I played as just a regular deal with Dagger, and so I leveled perception first and then went into agility. I'm still not sure which is the most optimal stat spread. I'm pretty sure you want to take full willpower, but depending on your opinion, you can just go 20 agility or 20 perception. I can see the argument for both of that, because with agility you get a lot of good stats like counter chance and dodge chance and hands efficiency. All of those are what you want. but the fumble chance is a bit wasted because it's just so easy to deal with fumble in this game in general, especially with concentration here. And later in the game, you basically always have kneecap while you're in the dungeon, so that's another minus 10% fumble chance. So that part I don't like about a little bit. And then with perception, generally speaking, on a melee build, the vision and bonus range part is wasted, but in this build, as an exception, it really helps for you to target the optimal enemy with the dimensional shift. Sometimes, like if you wanna bring enemy archer near you, it would be like just one tile away, which can be annoying. So in that regard, this might help. And accuracy and armor penetration, they're both very good stats, and as well as crit chance. So excuse me, these two I think you can switch around. But here is a list of all the requirements of the skill that I recorded to better optimize the build path. And I am gonna do this assuming that you take perception 15 into agility 15. So please keep that in mind. So basically all the skills, the tier 2 skills are unlocked at level 10, tier 3 are at level 16, and tier 4 at level 22. And then you can get them 2 levels earlier if you have the right stats. And depending on your starting character might already have some stats in there. So like in this case for deadly trick, it's not 8 more points, you just need 6 more points, because Mahir starts with 1 in agility and 1 perception. And looking at this, you wanna make sure, well, not make sure, but consider this into your stat choice, because getting a core skill 2 turns earlier can really help out with your early game and speed up your growth, I guess. But the thing is, this Dual Wield Dagger just does so much damage in the early game that it's not much of a question in my opinion. Like, it's honestly the easiest early game I've ever had with any character that I've played so far. Because everything just dies like within 3 skills, and often just 2 skills. Double lunge, flurry of strikes, and that resets double lunge, and double lunge, it's dead, including mini bosses. So, and at first let's talk about the character first. So the thing about Mahir is that it gives you more AP points, but often when you discuss meta in online communities, and I agree with this, that sometimes going for full 5 AP points or ability points can be a trap, because you're getting, if you're getting like useless skills just to get 1 additional ability point, just use that skill to get the skill that you actually need earlier and complete the build earlier. But the thing is, this build, and I originally planned to do it on another character, because I agreed on that sentiment, and I didn't really necessarily want to make this into a 5 AP build. But after like getting all the core skills down, I was like contemplating like which additional passive skills do I want to finish out the build, and then like it naturally led to what if I just take these and then get AP from this tree, and like so what I'm saying is that there was no skill that was wasted just to get one more AP from Mahir's trade. And so as I said, everything about this build just clicks. So you start out with Dagger build in the at level on in Osbrook. Like, you don't even have to do like weird Manshire trip or anything. You just, Mahir starts with Dagger, dual wielding, and Arcanistics and Magic Mastery, if I remember correctly. So most of the skill trees you need anyways. You can, so at level 1 you go to the guard under the town elder's house and ask a dagger from him, and then you just do one-handed dagger and take skills double lunge. And I took from the shadows because I was gonna, after double lunge, I thought I was gonna just auto for the most part, and so the plus 33% damage taken would help out, and that was enough to just go through the first dungeon. Plenty of damage, and I never really felt any danger. In fact, I became overconfident and died once because I tried to fight like 4 or 5 enemies at once. But anyways, as long as you play normally, you won't be in any danger. So at level 1 you take double lunge and from the shadows, and then after the first dungeon you'll have enough resources, or you might even loot a additional dagger that you can, or it doesn't have to be a dagger. In my case, I found a one-handed axe that I just used immediately. And then at level 2, right, because at level 1 you get 2 skill points, rather ability points. At level 2 I got Flurry of Strikes, and these 2 skills just so much damage early game. Like, I was using level 1 daggers, and all of my gear was just default. I didn't even realize that it didn't have a glove on until I was buying tier 3 gears. I was like, oh wait a minute, this part is empty. I didn't even know that I didn't have any hand gear. So with those, you just clear all 3 contracts in Osbrook. You don't even have to spend money to buy tier 2 gears. Sometimes when I'm playing a relatively weaker melee build, I struggle a lot in the early first and second dungeon, and I'm like, I need tier 2 gears now, and I just buy them. This time I didn't even feel that need at all, so I just used my tier 1 and tier 2 gears that I just looted until I got to Manshire. So do that, and then so when you level up, after Flurry of Strikes, I recommend the Quick Hands, because this decreases the cooldown of double lunge whenever you land a successful dagger strike. So basically, you double lunge to start the fight, and then activate from the shadows. So the way this works, this has to wait a turn to be applied to the enemy. So your first skill, whether it be double lunge or Flurry of Strikes, doesn't benefit from the shadows at all. So first you start with double lunge, even though this gives hands efficiency. Overall, I think that's the better combo. Double lunge and then Flurry of Strikes, and you ideally do 6 strikes, which immediately resets the cooldown of double lunge. And then you do double lunge again. Everything just dies to that combo in the early game. So at level 3 you get Quick Hands. At level 4, what you can do is you can get Pathfinder, which I usually do in all my runs because it just feels blind to play without this skill. But this time I try to test my skills more. Like, I try to anticipate what might be behind the door and whatnot, you know, like. But honestly, I think it's just better to take Pathfinder here, because this isn't just about the vision utility. It also gives you stats. It also gives you essentially 5% accuracy and minus 5% fumble. And those are really good stats early game, because in the early game your accuracy is like 85% and your fumble is like what, 15-20%. So those two are the most urgent fixes that you need, because those aren't enough. You want to be able to hit enemies near 100% of the time. So level 4, just get Pathfinder, make your life easier. And then at level 5, yeah, you need dual wielding training, because one, it itself is a good skill. It gives fumble and hands efficiency, but more importantly, at level 6 you want to take concentration. As I said, accuracy and fumble chance is what you want to fix in the early game, and on top of that, this gives hands efficiency. It's a really good skill early game, and it can be unlocked at level 6. Let me double check. Yeah. Excuse me. So at level 6, unlock concentration. So if we visualize it on here, it's flurry of strikes and then quick cans into Pathfinder, into dual wield training, into concentration. So another thing that you have to consider is that maybe going for the early Mahir extra AP is not the optimal path, because if, as I said, if you're getting useless skills just to get that, you might as well just get the skills that you want right now right away. It's much faster that way. But I think, well, I thought that the right tree of dual wielding would be still useful right away, because in the early game I don't have like proper defensive capability, and I thought I'd be losing health a lot, so I went deflect, an active skill. Generally speaking, I think you want to prefer good active skills over any passive skill, because what you want to do is complete your skill rotation as early as possible, and then strengthen that through your passives. But anyways, I went deflect. No, wait, hold on. So Berserk Tradition I was able to unlock at level 10, the earliest, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because like this doesn't factor in perception, so I couldn't get it at level 7, so I had to wait until level 10, which means, if you see, like I have an ability point to spend before I get Berserker Tradition, so I put that point into setup. This gives accuracy, and in the early game you just stand there and wait for the enemy to come to you, so even though you don't have any maneuver skills, you can fully utilize this. It also passes you towards defensive tactic, which is also really important. And then you get Deflect, Dying Fervor, and Berserker Tradition to complete the dual wielding tree, get another AP from the passive, or rather trait, and get these two supposedly good skills. But the thing is, I rarely lost my HP, because the damage output is so high that you just kill stuff. Like you just go, hey, and then let's say this is a corner. You hide on the corner. You do this. You examine surroundings. Say there's an enemy here. You shout pull, and then wait, and then when the enemy's here, you don't even need to use defensive tactic. You just use concentration and do double lunge, flurry of strikes, double lunge, and then that's it. Like if they have a raise shield or a mighty swing, any sort of buffing skill, they just take 2 free hits from you, and by the time they hit you back, they're dead. So honestly speaking, I didn't get much value out of these two skills. So if you want, you can consider going offensive tactics first. I can see the argument in there, And you can get offensive tactic at level 7 because we level agility and perception first, which means that you can do this. And then setup and defensive tactic at level 10, because it unlocks at exactly level 10. And tactical advantage unlocks at level 12. Is this correct? Yeah, because normally this is 14, but Mahir starts with agility, perception, and willpower, so this goes down to 11. So you want to click this at level 12, but in the meantime you just click Warcry. As I said, Warcry is another really good tier 1 skill. You're gonna be leveling willpower, so it scales with this. And also confusing the enemy is gonna activate from the shadows bonus, which is even more good. And then, you know what, I think this is better, in fact, now that I think about it. Yeah, because right now I have these, but these are pretty, like, I'm not saying these are bad skills, they were just not needed in the early game of this build. So I think if you're doing this, what you should do is this. So here you get your first free ability point at level 12. Excuse me. And because I'm level 12 and I haven't really played after this point, so I can't really tell for sure. I haven't experienced it myself yet, so let's put it up there, and then let's talk about what I think you should do to optimize your gameplay. Is first you do the Osbrook contract, and then you steal 2 sacks of grains from here, and then put all your things that you don't need right now in the chest of this small house that you get in the mill and the Osbrook tavern. And then you take those, what you need right now, immediately, and go to Bryn. And then at Bryn you just steal everything from the elf shop and the pawn shop and the jeweler and the grocery shop, also the guilds. And put them in your cavern storage, and then get the blacksmith follower. Also pay for the ranger. Ranger is gonna be somewhere around here. You can go get her right away, which I think is what I did. Yeah, because like you can spend time in this game, it doesn't penalize you in any way for delaying your progress, as long as you can pay for the food, which isn't that expensive. So get your ranger so that you can get this what's it called, relations, right? Relations up to the Ranger Brew level as soon as possible, because you're gonna need it for tier 4 and 5 dungeons. And then go to Manshire. And in Manshire, what I want to point out, so the reason why I decided to record this right now is because I didn't want to forget these details. So for Manshire, when you first get there, with the old contract, you get more money from your first contract, right? So what you want to do is out of all the contract options, you want to search here in the wiki, contracts and tasks. Like you get it, once you get the 3 contract lists, just Control F, and like for example, if you got Restless Crypt, search Restless Crypt and see how much money that pays. In this case, 340 gold. That's not good. So if there's anything that pays 420 gold, get that, and then you also negotiate for more money. And if you're lucky, it's gonna go up to 1600 reward, but you have to do it in one day, which isn't a problem at all with honestly any build, but with this build especially. And you go do the contract, and what you want to do, well, you can do two things here. One, you can go report to the southern outpost for more money, and you can get 2,000. Is it gold or crown in this game? 2,000 cash, whatever the whatever it is, the name is. Or what you can do is you can just report to the representative from the Bryn. He's gonna be at the winery or the orchard depending on the time of the day, and then get more Bryn rep. And then what's important is that among the two remaining contracts, one of them you want to report to the town elder, I think. Let me double check. So Unholy Manuscripts, this is the first one I did. Bounty Hunt, and then Mysterious Disappearances. Wait, hold on. I can't tell with this. Unholy Manuscripts, Bounty. Yeah, so see? So if you take a look, Unholy Manuscripts gave 147 Bryn rep. So in my case, I reported to the Bryn representative. And then for the second contract, I reported to the town elder. And then the third contract, I again reported to the Bryn representative. And after you do that, you also do the Stolen Wines. Well, in the middle of that, you do the Stolen Wines quest, winery quest. And then I believe you know how to get maximum reward out of this, so I'm not going to explain that. And then you do the Herbalist quest to get the Herbalist Satchel. And that puts you at exactly a bit over like 4,000. I think it was 4,017 for me. So why this is so important is because you need to go get your relations with Manshire to Amity to open the troll quest. And then you do the troll, you hunt the troll right away, because you honestly don't need like much to kill the troll as long as you know what you're doing. And for that you can search YouTube for Stoneshard, the ancient troll, and there's gonna be a better explanation from content creators. But as I said, this build does so much damage that one thing is that I wanted to see how it goes with a level tier 1 headgear against the troll, and I did it with a hoodie that has 1 protection. And I died once, but not because of lack of protection, but because I misstepped into a dead end and I wasn't able to get out of there in time, and I got swiped twice. But that was just completely a mistake on my part. But if you want to be safe, you can just buy a tier 2 gear, but honestly you don't have to. You can just save your money and use the loot that you get from the towers. Watchtower, that's and what else? Yeah, anyway, so if you do the troll quest, the relations with Manshire goes up to respect, and then you can just sell. If the price fluctuation is good, you can sell everything that you don't need there and buy tier 3 gear. Yeah, yeah, so these are everything. All these I bought in Manshire, these 2 daggers included, but this was a different tier 3 dagger, but I looted this in a dungeon and it switched to Rondel. And these are from the loot you get after killing the troll. So after that, you have full tier 3 gear, excluding jewelry and the belt. But that's more than enough to do the Rotten Willow Tavern quests. And before you come to Rotten Willow Taverns, from here you want to go recruit the 3rd follower, Leaf, I think, here. And the reason why this is important is because I just straight went to Osbrook again to retrieve the stash that I put in mill and the tavern chest, but I remember that I had to recruit Leaf and took the wagon. No, took the, what's it called? The horse taxi thingy all the way, and then did the little fight you have to do. And then I found out that your camp has to be near him for him to be able to reach your camp. So I had to go all the way back, bring my caravan all the way here, recruit him, and then wait for the cool time. And then by then I was like, whatever, fuck this. And then I just reloaded the save from when I was in Osbrook, right? Because the Manshire save was already overridden. So I just reloaded the save and then brought the caravan immediately, did the fight, and then in the meantime the cooldown went down, and then I just during that time spent collecting leeches, which is why I have a lot of leeches right now here. And then I went to Rotten Willow Tavern here, did all the 3 quests without a single problem. It was the easiest tier 3 dungeons Rotten Willow quest I did, I think. And here I am, yeah. So I also did the burial cave and brought the book to the guy. What else do I want us to talk about? Oh yeah, and how the build is gonna go from here. So so let's say we do this first. I have an extra point to spend, and then so I'm level 12, but what I'm gonna do from here is I'm gonna go to, what's my burn rep? Still at Benevolence. Okay, then I think what I have to do is go to Denbury right away and then do one of the tier 3 quests, and then if that puts me at Britain Amity, I can come back and grab some tier 4 gears, go back and then do tier 4 dungeons. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And for that, you probably need so Thirst for Battle is unlocked at level 22. If you take a look, it requires strength, agility, vitality, willpower, but since we spent 5 points into perception, we're not gonna get this in time. So this is unlocked at level 22, which we want to take right away, as soon as it's unlocked. So I think there are 2 ways to approach this. One, I think, is to take the Berserker tradition now, if you follow this path, because it is a strong skill. If you expect to struggle a bit with tier 4 dungeons, this is gonna help a lot. But I think, oh yeah, and while you're at Manshire, don't forget to acquire Armored Combat and Magic Mastery tier 1 skill book, and that means that Mahir doesn't start with Magic Mastery. But anyways, don't forget to acquire that, because I think right after this you might just go straight for the hybrid synergy, because I don't see why not. So at this point, what you're thinking about is what is gonna enable me to do tier 4 dungeons, right? But as I said, I took this because I thought I was gonna need it, and then I took defensive tactic next because I don't have any defensive skills yet, and I thought I was gonna need it against tier 3 stronger enemies, but I didn't at all, like except for some mini bosses, which honestly was more of a precaution than an actual like requirement for clearing the dungeon. So if that trend, hold on, let's take a look at the tier 4 enemies. So the hardest are human and proselyte dungeons, and tier 4, oh, fiend, right, fiend is a problem. Fiend and let's see. Mage Hunter, you get Mage Hunters at tier 4. And the stronger deserters, and what gives me the most problem in general in my experience? These mages are, if you let them do damage, they can be a problem, but normally what you do is shout pull or cheese them in some sort of way. And I guess for that you could just take dimensional shift from here right away. Yeah, I think that's an option. And Mage Hunter, as a melee build, what's annoying about Mage Hunter is mostly the shackles. And the nets, for the net you want fortitude so that you can remove it by just a single turn of waiting. What's my fortitude? 34% is not enough. I think that might be enough. Not sure, but Fiend is the biggest problem in my opinion here. So Fiend has a quite high dodge chance, 18%. So you need 118% accuracy to be able to hit him. Guaranteed. What's his accuracy? 94? Oh, and I think I haven't talked about this, but for tier 3 gear, I think it's just safer to go medium armor, because tier 3 light armor can work. I'm not saying that they can never work, but the thing is, right now I don't have any defensive skills aside from defensive tactic, and honestly I don't think that's gonna be enough to put my dodge and block chance above the breakpoint, because these percentage defensive stats need to reach a certain amount to be able to be effective, and I don't think I'm at that point yet, so I think it's just better to go medium armor for tier 3. So if we think about how we're gonna fight the Fiend and some other enemies that are with it, I mean, shout pulling is a given, but we have to. Alright, so the hardest part of a dungeon is generally the entrance, because you don't have a blind spot to hide in and shout pull, and also the boss. So if we imagine a wide entrance with like 2 fiends and a Giroud, don't know if that's correct pronunciation, and some like other enemies like Impaler and whatnot. This build, how does it do? So one approach we can take is Berserker Tradition, expecting that our health is finally going to drop. But I think it's just better to start pathing towards the core synergy that we are planning to utilize. Because it's gonna help a lot to be able to deal with like things like this Sanguimage, and in terms of humans, Brigand, Electromancer, and Geomancer with a dimensional shift. That's gonna make your life so much easier. And after dimensional shift, we can take Seal of Power to buff our damage significantly. If you take a look at the Arcanistics part, it's 20% of your willpower, and we're after perception and agility, everything goes into willpower, and it's gonna start to scale very fast. And then I think instead of body and spirit, because you only have dimensional shift yet to be able to trigger this frequently enough, so in my opinion, there are two more core active skills. One is the Ether Shield, the other is the Unyielding Defense. Because eventually we're gonna do this, and as I said before, in a build generally you want to complete the active skill rotation first, unless it's a passive skill gives like tremendous value, like the from the shadows. You want to complete the core skill rotation first, and the core skill rotation includes Ether Shield and Dimensional Shift. Also, you have to be able to spam Dimensional Shift every 3 turns, so I think this Transcendental Anchoring is also quite important, or you can just take Wormhole and use both. So the idea behind taking 6 in Arcanistics is that with Dimensional Shift as your only source of teleport, you have to use it every 3 turns. So like for example, if you want to use it for a specific purpose but your Ether Shield is about to run out, you can't use it for that purpose. So Wormhole is a backup plan, sort of a foolproof for like in situations where you need Dimensional Shift for something else, or maybe you just simply misplay, and in that case you can cast Wormhole to, because if you miss it you have to cast Ether Shield and then teleport once to, because it's not Ether Shield and then the damage buff right away. You have to Ether Shield and then you teleport once to receive 1 stack of the extra damage, and then you have to teleport twice to receive full stack, because it says the effect stacks up to 2 times, right? So for maximum damage you have to use both Dimensional Shift and Wormhole in short succession. And I actually tested this with the save editor, and here in Electromancy, residual charge gives you extra on-hit damage, and this is 20% of your willpower right away, and it doesn't stack, so this gives more damage. But the thing is, Electromancy skills are just like as a supplement to a melee combat, they're not that great, and it really feels you don't want to have to use Jolt every 3 turns. Like, it's such a bad skill compared to the things that can do with Flurry of Strikes and Double Lunge, whereas Arcanistic skills provide actually good utility to melee combat. So that's why I chose Arcanistics compared to Electromancy. But in damage wise, to do the same as a single residual charge stack, you have to have 2 Ether Shield stacks of teleporting. Anyways, so if we picture how the late game combat is gonna go, first you use offensive tactic to reduce the cooldown of everything that you use while it's on. And then I think is maybe Seal of Power, because this is really easy to maintain. And then I think it's gonna be Warcry usually, because by then, like you just use 2 turns to use buffing skills, so enemies are gonna be coming towards, started coming towards you now, so you're gonna see most of the enemies that you're gonna fight in that fight. So Warcry and confuse them. Also, it's gonna be a pretty long duration if there's a lot of enemies. And then either concentration or unyielding, in whatever order, ether shield, and then you finally dimensional shift an enemy in front of you and then start dealing damage. And then so it's gonna be double lunge, flurry of strikes, double lunge, and then kill that, dimensional shift back 1, because at 30 willpower and with this passive skill, cooldown of dimensional shift goes down to 4 or 3 turns, was it? You can spam it, or rather use it repetitively before ether shield runs out. I've checked that. So ideally it's gonna be double lunge, flurry of strikes, double lunge, dimensional shift, double lunge, and then in the, like, if you need to reposition, you can use deadly trick, and yeah, so that's how late game combat is gonna look. So I think this is a good time to work towards that synergy, yeah, because ether shield is damage reduction too. If we take armored combat first, worrying that our defense might not be enough, then this core concept of the build, core synergy of the build is delayed that much. And honestly speaking, I think for this build, it could be offense over defense, like just killing enemies, the best defense. So something like this. And then if you feel like you need the cooldown reduction right away, you can do this. Transcendental anchoring into body and spirit, because that's a lot of damage at this point. And what level are we at then? So currently we got only 1 extra AP, so we're at level 17. And then the question here is, do we want to complete dual wielding or take armored combat? And I can see the argument for both, because if we go like that, we're at level 20, no, 20, yeah, level 20 with an extra AP. That's awkward, because this unlocks at level 22. Or if we do this first and then, like in tier 4 dungeons, feel like we're not pressured in any way to take Berserker Tradition, we could just go for... Yeah, I think this makes sense because as I said in the beginning of the video, Battleforge synergizes with Dimensional Shift. We're gonna be Dimensional Shifting a lot, constantly, every 3 turns. Which means we're gonna be benefiting from the passive from Battleforged a lot as well. Also, Unyielding Defense is an extra shack of Battleforged too. Also, Deadly Trick. So this says 22, but it's actually 21. And then at level 22, we can take Thirst for Battle. And yeah, I think that's the core of the build completed. Yep, I think that makes sense. And then afterwards, we can go for Berserker Tradition and get an extra AP. Deadly Trick is just okay, like occasionally it's gonna be useful, mostly for repositioning while also getting that counter chance bonus. But for damage, it's mainly gonna be just double lunge and flurry of strikes. That's it, you don't need anything else. And these two passives are really strong too. And for Iconistics, for foolproof of teleporting, we can take Wormhole. And at this point, since you already have 5 points as Arcanistics, it's basically a free skill. And this is the part that I'm not yet decided, is which of these 3 available skills that I want to take. I can see the argument for all of them. If we think that we're already overloaded in terms of active skills we can use in our skill rotation, we can just take this passive, which I think is going to be fine. But Schism is like, because enemies are going to be confused with Warcry, or at least dazed, right? And if they're dazed, it's even better because we can use Schism to like push them towards a wall or something, or an object. And if that dazes them, because if you get pushed back into an object, you receive daze, and if you receive daze while you have daze, you get stunned, right? So this is essentially, well, not essentially, like sometimes it's gonna be 5 range stun, which might come in handy. Also, I can see the argument for stasis. I haven't used this skill yet, so I don't know how useful it's gonna be in actual gameplay, but it's an interesting skill. Anyways, so that's gonna be the entire build. And then Ever Vigilant is just good stat. Like if you're going for dodge, you want to stack dodge as high as possible, and this is 10% effective dodge, because it reduces accuracy, which is basically gaining dodge for yourself. And actually reducing accuracy is even better because it doesn't get affected by any like negative status effects. So yeah, so hold on, that's the level 22 completed at level 22, and I'm gonna play it further. I don't know if I want to grind it till level 30, because the way this build looks, it's gonna be like overpowered, and I'm gonna just breeze through the entire content, but we'll see how it goes. And then in the second video, I will have a more broader view of the build and then share my experience with you. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.